The princess has turned 15 years old, and the king made her a royal gift. A small one, but not too small, a little boat, just like that, so that his beloved daughter could sail along the shores with her friends. Yes, to sail along the shores with her friends. The princess really liked the little boat, and it's no wonder. Its sails are white, the mast is gilded, and the bow and stern are painted in cheerful colors. The little boat sways on the gentle waves like a white-winged seagull. The princess began to plead with her father. Let's refresh your gift and go for a ride together. The king never denied his daughter anything. After all, she is his only one, like the heart in his chest. And why not go for a ride? The sea is blue, the sun is hot. They went up on deck, the sailors started singing, and they raised the sails. It runs along the green shores, the little boat, and the king is asking, "Come on, father, let's sail further out to sea, that we're all at the shore like a horse tied up." The king didn't deny her this time either. They set out to sea. The land behind them was only visible as a narrow strip. Suddenly, a small cloud appeared in the sky. On the edges it's light, and in the middle it's dark. The cloud began to grow before their eyes. Now half the sky is covered. The sun was obscured. It got dark, and the sea in that direction. The king ordered to turn towards the shore quickly. Yes, it's too late. A whirlwind swept in. Everything around was covered in gloom. Heavy waves were rolling in. The little boat was carried out into the open sea. There hasn't been such a terrible storm in a long time. The waves were attacking the little boat like a wild beast, pouncing on its prey. They were tossed around at sea for so many days and nights. The sails were torn to shreds. The steering wheel broke. But finally they saw the shore ahead. Everyone thought that relief from their troubles had finally come. And that's when the real trouble happened. The mast collapsed and overturned the little boat. The king barely managed to grab the mast with one hand. With his other hand, he grabbed the princess by her dress tightly. She carried them across the sea, sometimes tossing them up, sometimes throwing them down, with water washing over them. More than once they stared death right in the face. And yet she managed to drive the mast to the shore, laid it on the soft sand, and the sailors sank to the north with the princess's friend. If anyone survived, we don't know, and you won't find out either. The king and the princess left their shore rich and happy. Everyone loved and respected them. And on this shore they stepped as unknown beggars. All that was left of their royal clothes were just pitiful rags. They didn't know anyone, and no one had heard of them. The king and his beloved daughter endured all kinds of sorrow. They were hungry and cold, and begged for a piece of bread under the windows. The king was not old yet. He could still work. Yes, as soon as he brings it up, people ask, "What can you do?" It would be wrong to admit that only one can reign. Nobody will believe it, and what kind of work is that? They wandered like this for a long time, and finally in one village the people said to the king, We have an old shepherd who recently passed away. Take care of our cattle. There stands the shepherd's empty hut. And so they began to live. The king tended to the cattle princess. She took care of the household. And she learned to light the hearth, cook soup, and wash the pots. One day, the princess was washing laundry by the river. When a traveler from that land rode by, the prince saw the girl, and it was as if a sharp blade pierced his heart. He looks at her and says to himself, "No, such beauty couldn't have come from her father and mother." That's right. The mountain sorceresses shaped her from white snow that they gathered from the bottomless gorge. The color of her eyes was stolen by the sorceresses of the mountain lake. The breeze brought her to life. The dew nourished her. The bees fed her with honey, decorated the bowl with flowers. The prince wanted to speak to the girl, but he didn't dare. He touched the horse, and yes, he forgot where he was going. And so he returned to the palace. The fish grabs the bait, but after that, it's no longer in her control. How it doesn't fight, the fisherman will pull her onto the shore. And so the prince, like a fish on a hook, was drawn to the village where the beautiful girl lived. He'll pass by the shepherd's hut, as if by chance, and with a bit of luck, he admired the girl. But he never found the courage to speak to her. And what about the girl? How does the prince envy? She lowers her face, as if she isn't looking in his direction. But according to the girl's custom, she noticed everything. He is a true young man, a hero, handsome and of noble lineage. Some time passed, and the prince came to his father and mother. He bowed them and said, "You've been talking to me about marriage for quite a while now. So I found myself a bride?" "That's good," say the father and mother. "Where is she from?" "Which king?" "Which king's daughter?" "From our region," replies the prince. "But her father is not noble, he's a shepherd." The king and queen clapped their hands and tried to dissuade him. But the prince stands his ground. "I will either marry the shepherd's daughter or not marry at all. I will run to the ends of the earth, but I will leave my heart here." The king secretly sent someone to take a look at that girl. Everyone reported in unison. The chosen one is beautiful, the prince is modest, obedient to his father. And the prince himself is not himself. Day by day he is getting thinner and paler. What should we do here? The king sent the chief advisor to the shepherd to propose to the girl. The shepherd listened to the matchmaker and asked, "And what craft does the prince know?" The advisor was surprised and said, "You must be out of your mind with happiness. Why does the prince need a craft? He's a prince, and that's that. The time will come, he will reign." "To reign, not to work," the shepherd replies. "Here is my word to you. I won't give my daughter to him. Whoever is in power has no craft." Return to the chief advisor. Everything as it is, the tsar told. The king laughed at first, then became offended, then became angry. "So, a shepherd can't have a daughter, and my prince's wife can't be his daughter-in-law." Shouted the chief advisor. "Go to that old fool, maybe you can convince him." But even the chief advisor couldn't persuade him. Everyone was stubborn about their own position, and the prince wasn't offended or angry. He secretly went into the crooked streets, into the narrow alleys where the craftsmen lived, and started watching what the artisans were doing. He started watching what the craftsmen were doing. There sits an old man in front of him, a mound of clay. The old man took a lump, placed it on the wheel, and pressed it with his foot. The wheel started to spin, and from the old man's fingers a slender creature with a long neck emerges. At the other end of the alley, the smiths are decorating copper dishes with patterns. The hammers are ringing, and along the edge of the plate, little branches with leaves are intertwined. The weavers tie knot after knot. 1,000 knots will be tied, but the carpet will only grow by a sparrow's step. What flowers will bloom on it? 1,000 knots will be tied, but the carpet will only grow by a sparrow's step. What flowers will bloom on it? And you wouldn't guess. You can only see that they will bloom. The prince drank and ate from beautiful dishes every day. His feet stepped on the soft carpets. And not once did he ask himself where all this comes from. The prince would be happy to learn everything, but a whole lifetime wouldn't be enough for that. He wandered around and saw how they weave mats from golden steamed straw. It seems simple, but it turns out beautifully. They lay straw on the base made of light hemp twine, bundle by bundle. Strand by strand they twist them together, and then they will take a few colored straws, green and red. They will place it in the middle or on the sides. A patterned lightweight mat is woven quickly, and you can lay it under her feet and sit on it, and cover the window from the sun. Could you let me try? The prince asked the master. Why not let me? It's not a tricky thing, the master replies. The prince sat down on the ground, doing everything as he had seen. The stems are laid unevenly. Everything comes out crooked and slanted from under my hands. Don't rush, the master teaches, you see. Ends of the straw are sticking out on the sides. Tuck them in, put them underneath. Then the edge will be strong and even. Painted straws. Don't just place them randomly, match them to the pattern. Some are longer, some are shorter. The prince isn't offended that a simple master is teaching him. Tries his best. Where does patience come from? He worked until sunset. He learned how his fingers hurt, cut by the straw. Like a bent back is breaking. It's getting dark. The master said, it's time to rest. You had your fun today. Tomorrow you'll get some sleep. You have your fun, but I have work again tomorrow. But the master made a mistake. The prince came back to the same spot early in the morning, ready to get to work again, and by noon he managed to weave 2 beautiful mats. These ears are not something to be ashamed of selling, said the master. And by noon he managed to weave 2 beautiful mats. These ears are not something to be ashamed of selling, said the master. Sell one, the prince replies. I'll take the other with me. The master sold the mat for 4 copper coins and handed the money to the prince. The prince carefully wrapped those coins in a silk scarf, and the master paid for the lesson with a gold coin. With the second mat, the prince quietly went to the poor shepherd's hut. He stepped over the threshold and spread the mat out in full length, across the entire width at the feet of the shepherd's daughter. Right away, it got brighter in the hut, as if the sun had peeked in. "Wow," he said to the shepherd's daughter, "well done. And what is its price at the market?" Then the prince untied the knot. He showed 4 copper coins on a silk handkerchief. "This is what they give for one," the prince replied. "Well, 4 and 4, 8. 8 and 8, 16. If I had such a craft in my hands, I wouldn't be herding cattle today. I will give my daughter for you, if she agrees herself." "I agree," the beauty replied quietly. At the wedding feast, the king asked his matchmaker, "Tell me, why do you value this craft so much? What does the prince need it for? Tell me, why do you value this craft so much? Why does the prince need it?" "Now I will tell you," the shepherd replied. "Well, listen to what happened. And when you understand for yourself, guess with whom." The princess turned 15 years old, and the king made her a royal gift, a small but not insignificant ship. So he told everything in order, just as we heard. The prince's father was overjoyed. Look how well everything turned out. He didn't stand in the way of his son's happiness. He allowed him to marry the shepherd's daughter. The shepherd's daughter turned out to be a princess. The young couple lived in love and harmony, and they equipped a ship for the princess's father and sent him off with honors to his kingdom. To his kingdom? He went through a lot and understood many things he didn't know before. And he ruled wisely and justly,